You're listening to Your Calm Parenting Path. I'm your host Nina, a mindful parenting coach and mum, here to help you go from overwhelmed and reactive to calm, confident and connected with your kids. This show is for parents who want to raise their children with more patience, less stress and a whole lot more joy. Because small shifts make a big impact and you can build the parenting life you've always wanted. If you want to see what I'm up to, follow me on Instagram at Mindful Parenting Lifestyle, and don't forget to hit follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. Let's get started. Welcome back to Your Calm Parenting Path. This is episode 2, and I am so thrilled that you've come back. Now, if you haven't already listened to episode 1, I highly recommend going back and checking it out. In that episode, I shared my own personal parenting struggles and how I discovered mindful parenting and a small action that you can take to start your own journey. Today, we're tackling a big one, yelling. Because, let's be honest, most of us don't want to yell, and yet so many parents find themselves doing it. We tell ourselves we'll stay calm, but then the chaos of the day takes over. Kids are fighting, someone spills their breakfast, no one is listening, and before we know it, we've lost it. And then comes the guilt, the regret, and the promise to do better tomorrow. But what if I told you that yelling isn't actually effective? That despite what it feels like in the moment, it's not the best way to get our kids to listen, and that there is a much better way. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Why we yell, why it doesn't work, and what to do instead. And at the end, I'll give you one small action you can take this week to start shifting out of the yelling cycle. Now, I didn't grow up in a house where yelling was the norm. My parents were calm, nurturing, and patient, and I always imagined I'd be the same way with my own kids. But when I became a mum, I quickly realised that knowing what kind of parent I wanted to be and actually being that parent in the moment were two very different things. And like so many of you, I came into parenting with the best intentions. I wanted to be patient. I wanted to respond calmly. I wanted to be the best mum ever. But then real life happened. I had 3 kids under 4. I was sleep deprived, constantly juggling a million things, and there were moments when I just felt completely done. And in those moments, I found myself raising my voice, not because I thought it was the right thing to do, but because I felt overwhelmed, out of options, and desperate for my kids to just listen. But when I really looked at it, I saw a pattern. I wasn't yelling because I wanted to. I was yelling because I didn't know what else to do. And the truth is, most parents don't yell because they believe in it as a parenting strategy. They yell because they feel pushed to their limit, because it feels like the only way to be heard, because they don't have a better way to handle the situation in the moment. It may be the way they remember being parented themselves and they don't know any different. But here's the thing. Yelling doesn't actually work in the way we hope. Yes, it might stop a behaviour in the moment, but over time it creates more resistance, more disconnection, and more frustration for both us and our kids. So why doesn't yelling work? Well, it all comes down to how our kids' brain process information in those heated moments. When we yell, our children don't hear our words, they hear our tone, our anger, our frustration. And instead of processing the message, their brains go into defense mode. They shut down, tune out, or fight back. So, while we might get temporary compliance, we're not actually teaching them anything. Think about the last time someone yelled at you, maybe your partner, your boss, or even a stranger, or your child. Did it make you want to listen more? Or did it make you feel small, resentful, or defensive? Our kids feel the same way. And beyond that, yelling can have long-term effects on our relationship with our kids. It can create distance, make them less likely to come to us when they're struggling, and even impact their self-esteem. and none of that is what we want. But why do we get stuck in this cycle? Let's take a look at what's happening in the brain. Because to understand why we yell, we need to understand the brain. And in particular, we need to talk about two key parts, the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex. The amygdala is our brain's alarm system. It's responsible for detecting threats and triggering our fight or flight response. When we feel stressed, overwhelmed, or frustrated, the amygdala kicks in and floods our system with stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. This is great if we're actually in danger, like if our child has run onto the road into traffic, but it's not so great when we're just dealing with a toddler refusing to put their shoes on. And then we have the prefrontal cortex. This is the part of the brain responsible for problem solving, reasoning, and impulse control. This is the part that helps us pause and make thoughtful decisions instead of reacting impulsively. And here's the thing. When the amygdala is in overdrive, it essentially hijacks the prefrontal cortex. This is why we find ourselves yelling before we even realise what's happening. It's not that we lack willpower, it's that our brain is in survival mode and we don't have access to the part of the brain that helps us to respond calmly. But there is some good news. We can train our brain to respond differently. And this is where mindfulness comes in. If you listen to episode 1, you remember that I talked about how mindfulness was the first thing that helped me shift my parenting, and this is why. Mindfulness strengthens the prefrontal cortex. It helps us build the ability to pause and reset before we react. Think of it like a muscle. The more we practice mindfulness, the stronger our ability to pause becomes. Instead of being instantly hijacked by the amygdala, we start creating just enough space between trigger and reaction to make a different choice. So how does this look in real life? The next time you feel yourself about to yell, instead of reacting immediately, try this. First, pause. Literally stop. Take a breath. This interrupts the amygdala's hijack. Next, drop your shoulders. We tend to tense up when we're stressed, and a quick body check can help signal to your brain that you're safe. Third, use a reset phrase, something like, I need a second, or let's try this again, or this isn't an emergency, one of my personal favourites. This helps you shift gears and model emotional regulation for your child. All right, so here's your challenge for this week. The next time you feel yourself about to yell, pause just for a second, take a breath, drop your shoulders, and if you can, use a reset phrase like, this isn't an emergency. You don't have to get it perfect. Just try it once, and then try it again, and then try it again, and see what happens. The goal isn't to never yell. It's just to start catching yourself in those moments and giving yourself a little more space to respond in a way that feels good for you. If you try this, I'd love to hear how it goes. Send me a message on Instagram at Mindful Parenting Lifestyle and let me know what you noticed. If this episode resonated with you, download my free guide, 5 Little Secrets, which offers essential tips on handling challenging parenting moments with calm and grace instead of anger and yelling. You can find the link for this in the show notes. In our next episode, we're going to talk about one small habit that changed everything for me in my parenting journey, the power of the pause. We'll take what we talked about today and go even deeper into how pausing can completely shift the way you handle tough moments with your kids. Thanks for listening to Your Calm Parenting Path. I am so glad you're here, and I hope this episode gave you something useful to take into your parenting journey. If you'd like to dive deeper, sign up to my mailing list at mindfulparentinglifestyle.com.au for more tips and insights, or book a free chat to learn how we can work together. And don't forget to hit follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. I look forward to speaking with you next time on Your Calm Parenting Path.